Hey guys, Modest Major here, and I wanted to take some time to talk about the newest flight armors for the Master Chief Collection on Halo 3, and some of the dialogue that has been circling these new additions. Personally, when I first saw the armors, I didn't have the initial bad knee-jerk reaction some people did. For one, of course, they were toggleable, but I feel it's worth noting that they clearly knew there could be some backlash. That's 343. Knew there could be some backlash by creating the toggle function to begin with. In my head, it's not the first time Halo Armours have come out and gotten a knee-jerk response from me. 1, 2, and 3 stuck to fairly traditional archetypes whilst not making too much of a drastic effort to stray from the norm outside of perhaps the Hayabusa helmet, which is actually my favourite helmet from Halo 3. I loved it despite its, fairly significant difference to the majority of Halo 3 helmets. It's also worth noting that Halo 3 was the first Halo game to enable players to possess fleshed out armor customization, and the list itself was fairly short, which I actually went back and looked at, and I swear there's it's not too much. I think it's below 20 sort of thing. And I think Halo Reach was the first game where Bungie began to flex their creativity for armor types. Even for me, I had a knee-jerk reaction for the first time seeing Cat's robot arm for the first time as a matchmaking option. Halo Reach also brought with it the addition of armor effects, which threw a bit of a spanner in the works again. My initial reaction to armor types like Pestilence was a resounding, but why? Does this fit the mold of what I see as Halo? Do I want to see a smelly Spartan roaming the battlefield? To me, I used to always just stay far away. I couldn't imagine using Pestilence in a million years. Inclement Weather, on the other hand, was something that I just immediately thought was badass. I was like, this is so undoubtedly badass that I feel like everyone's going to just chase unlocking it, and there'd be no need to unlock Pestilence or the Love Heart effect, because Inclement Weather was just by far the superior option. I think Reach was more warmly received for straying outside of the Halo formula because it had put itself forward as a title outside of the mainline trilogy. So when they went a little bit crazy with the customization and with changing stuff that we're really used to see in a traditional Halo game, people weren't going to have that knee-jerk reaction, weren't going to have that initial flip out because it wasn't Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, it was Halo Reach, it was its own thing. And the sheer volume of customization had changed, and I think people were more than ready to receive it. It was more so gameplay aspects that tended to tread on people's toes than the increase of cosmetic options. Halo 4 and perhaps particularly Halo 5's customization took a bit of lashing from the Halo player base. Some of the helmets just seemed to warp and contort helmets into something somewhat unrecognizable. And the glossy finish made the Spartans look somewhat like superhero action figures. Which is a stark contrast to the more gritty, realistic approach that we saw in Halo Reach, which was warmly received. I think the designs we see now in Halo 3 MCC create a huge talking point just because they're so dissimilar to what we've seen in the past. I actually get more excitement seeing them than what I did with Halo 4 and 5 because the designs in those games almost look like when you go to a high-end conceptual art gallery and the artist or art appreciator would tell you should be appreciating the deep connotations and how they create a certain mysticism in the contours of the chin of the helmet. But to me, I'm just looking at an actual garbage can with legs and arms. With Halo 3, I think they've chosen more archetypal armor types, ones resembling Vikings, gladiators, plague doctors. The most common criticism I would have expected to see is that they look derivative, which Halo 4s and 5s were not. Most of Halo 4s and 5s look unique insofar as they look uniquely bad. Why would someone create them? They weren't really that special. Of course, I'm being a little bit dramatic. There were some standouts. I think I actually really like the Halo 4 Warrior helmet, but they were kind of few and far between, in my opinion. These new armor types, whilst not pushing the boat out conceptually, I can immediately look at a list and be strongly drawn to some immediately, and others not so much with the Halo 3 MCC helmets. When I see a Plague Doctor, I think this is going to be a guy camping with a sniper at the back of the map. He's a bit annoying, throwing grenades to cover his escapes. When I see the Gladiator helmet, I think that guy's going to be a meathead. He's going to run at me with a shotgun, run at me with a sword, a bit of a Chad, and probably a little bit slow. Mentally, that is. I feel like I've already got a picture in my head of how it will feel to come across these types of armors on the battlefield and how they may resonate with me, because with a lot of Halo 4s and Halo 5s, I literally felt nothing. Like, I would just see them, and the most I'd say to myself was that guy's face, like, horrifically burnt in some sort of fire? I should probably send well wishes to their family just in case, you know. I'm of the opinion that they needed to experiment moving forward with Halo in a different way of offering armors to us, or a different way of customizing them, and that if they're going to crack a few eggs in the process, perhaps doing it with Halo 3 MCC, especially if it's going to be toggleable there, so it's not like, you know, changing the way that the game operates and existed for people who are like such a fan of the way Halo 3 was. They want it exactly how they want. You know, I think it might be a good place to start with it and to start experimenting, to get more feedback, to go a little bit more edgy and a little bit more daring, to see what people say about it. I think it's fairly easy to imagine that in Halo Infinite there will probably be a fairly overwhelming amount of new armor types introduced to us as the content is rolled out. They for certain want Halo Infinite to be pushing out content to us indefinitely, and if they carried on with the sort of Halo 4, Halo 5 slight modifications where they're basically bad new versions of helmets that we've already seen with like a couple of weird conceptual changes, I imagine they could have flown under the radar, you know, not got a massive backlash that they'd received, but I think it's a bad thing, because I think it could have led to stagnation. I think, you know, while some of the new armor types, I wouldn't say are necessarily original, I would say they have they're a wild card in like the Halo multiplayer sphere and the way of looking at things. And I can imagine some people like coming out and saying, "Yo, I love this particular armor. I use it every game. I think it's amazing. I think it's sick. I want it in every game," and hating some loads. I think like them being more divisive is potentially more of a good thing, because I think like in terms of if you look at armor customization palette, you want kind of standouts, whether they're good standouts or bad standouts to some people. Like, obviously you don't want a guy running around with a chicken for a face. Actually, maybe you do. It's a bad example. But if you want, like, you need something that's a little bit more eye-turning for positive or for negative reasons. I think one person's awe-inspiring helmet is another person's dog shit omelette. For example, the unicorn helmet in Halo 4, Unisheck says yay, I say nay, every day of the week. And I think it's great that he's got his favourite, and I can not talk to him at social gatherings and try and, you know, distance myself as much as possible. Another thing I would say is I don't think that it's all that shocking to believe that moving forward, Bungie may have created customization as garish and outlandish feeling as the ones we're seeing here moving forward. I think Halo Reach was already beginning to open Pandora's box, and I think if you look at Destiny, you see Viking-inspired design motifs, Centurion, Dark Souls-esque. In the multiplayer era, being able to stand out from the crowd is a must, and for a lot of people, unlocking the more wild-looking designs is what keeps some people on the multiplayer grind. If Halo Infinite doesn't make too many earth-shattering decisions in their approach to game design, but goes a little bit wild and wacky with their armor customization instead, would that really be all that so bad? I, for one, take great pride in bullying those who pick really bad helmets out of a large selection. As long as the selection is large enough and diverse enough that there is something for me in the long run that I enjoy, do I really care if Long John Silver, the pirate's trying to take me plunder? Am I going to get upset? Yes, I will, but at him, not the game. Time Splitters 2 used to have 100 unlockable characters. If you asked me to name all of them, I could name about 15 of them that I love and remember. Do you think that means I would get rid of all of the 85 others that were either forgettable, derivative, or stupid looking? Absolutely not. I think perspectives have been a little bit warped when it comes to how the greater public will receive Halo and what should and should not matter. The volume of classic Halo fans who will make Halo a long-term success is going to dwindle more and more. You know, you look at Fortnite, you look at these, you know, big games around the corner. There's more gamers in general. Like, I think there was a time where like the universe, like the sheer strength in numbers of the Halo fan base and the Halo franchise that we could bring to the table was pretty overwhelming. So if a new Halo game came out that had a lot of weight, there was a lot we could do to push the game and to like make it, you know, work. But I think as time's going forward, I think they're experimenting with the norm more aesthetically, and pumping customization and unlockables into the game is probably a fairly inoffensive way to bring change to the game, more so than what we saw with Halo 5, where the changes to gameplay I think were pretty severe in terms of changing the core formula. You know, 12-year-old gladiator Steven from Minneapolis could be in Halo 3 MCC right now, and are you gonna be, you know, scared of him and think that he's ruining the game, or are you going to show him how bad he is at Halo, teabag his gladiator face? You know, the answer is in your hands, people. I've been Modest Major. Hope you guys enjoyed this commentary. Much love.